Hey guys, this is Toby Eunice of Garage Prospecting, and I can't tell you how excited I am to get this material processed. This is the material that was sent to me after I accepted his challenge by Silver Spike, and we actually communicated via Instagram, via our respective Instagram accounts. I want to read to you something that he sent me. He said, that material was crushed from ore collected out of Grantsville, Utah, from the White Rock Springs area. It's very heavy in pyrite as well as sulfites. It does contain copper, silver, and gold. Prior to being crushed, the ore was roasted to make it much easier for my ball mill to crush. It has been classified to minus 30 mesh, although there was some materials left in the bottom of my dolly pot that I threw in there for you. Back in the beginning of March, I smelted some of that very same material, and then I did a Cupel process. Once that was completed, I scanned it with an XRF gun, and it read out 20 karat purity. There may be some residual charcoal left in it from the roast. He says, it takes me over an hour to process one scoop through a small Garrett Super Sluice pan. That is why I had to upgrade my sluice box. That saves so much time. So the challenge that he had set up originally was a challenge, a panning challenge. And I checked in, when I saw the challenge, because I'm always interested in taking on a new challenge. And I wrote him and I said, I don't pan, I use mechanical equipment for all intents and purposes. And after he thought about it, he reached out to me and he said, okay, I'll send this to you. So when I got it, it was wet, it was moist. And so I let it sit out a bit and I dried it out. I live in near Albuquerque, New Mexico, so it's very warm and the humidity is very low. So we got lots of sunshine, so everything dries out really quickly. What I thought before we do anything else, let's take a look at it under the microscope. All right, so this is at about 3x magnification on the original size. So as you can see, the material is very gray. It does have a lot of flecks in it. Now there's no way to tell if those are gold that should have been beaten out with a ball mill. And remember, this is smaller than sand-sized material right now. It does have some quartz in it, right there. And he's right, there's a lot of sulfites, the dark material. There is some hematite or maybe some other metallic. You can see it in there. And then all those little tiny little black spots all over the stones, that's from the charcoal. But that right there, that looks like a speck of gold. Oops. Well, that's interesting. So let me zoom out just a little bit. So you know what? We had this same kind of thing in the material that was sent to us by Coulter Young. And it's wire, and it looks, this one's rusted, so it's been there a while. I'll have to check it out. But it looks like it comes from like a classification screen or something, and it ends up in the material. And so we'll probably run a magnet over it just to get some of that stuff out, because we don't want to process that. It's interesting to see, though. Let's zoom back in and see what else we've got. Yeah, rusty wire. So yeah, there's some charcoal, those flecks of charcoal. Is that a second one or the same one? That looks like the same one. The wire is what I was talking about. More quartz, and we have some of that white quartz and some of the crystalline quartz as well. But look at that, so that's metallics in there, and like he said, it could be copper, silver, something besides gold. But that wasn't, when he ran it through his ball mill, it wasn't beat out of the rock. But I do, let's see, so right there, that little, so that's charcoal. It's a piece of wood that has been burnt right there in the middle. So that's left in there as well, hopefully, because it's lighter than the rock. So there's another piece right there. And you can see the wood shape. Oh, and we do have a second one. So this is a different one. So those are those rusty wires in there. A magnet will take them out. They are magnetic, so it will take them out. But this is what you can expect from the material. So it's gray ore style material, conglomerates with, granite, quartz, sulfites. That orange in there is iron, the rust, and these wires. I didn't notice them when I picked up the sample to put under the microscope. So very interesting, very different, and we've got some work to do. So let's go back and take a look at the material. And I think what I'm going to do is run the magnet through it, see if we can get rid of some of those wires that are in there. So this is the glass dish that we were looking at just now. I'm going to pour it back in there. And I'm going to run the magnet through it. He didn't mention heavies in the black sand style, but wow, there's all those wires. So that, as you can see, is a lot of magnetics. So I think before we classify this material, we're going to want to run it through the dry magnetic separator. I believe that'll probably be the first step, because he said he had classified it down to a minute. Look at that. That's a lot of stuff, including all those wires and things. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to probably use the magnet and see if I can pull out those wires, and then we'll set up for the dry magnetic separator. Okay? Let's do that first. So I thought I'd throw this in there. This is the wire material that I pulled out. It's probably 30 pieces of it in there, but you can also see a lot of the black sand that came with it. So I'm not sure. It looks like it came from a classification screen, but it's in these little small pieces, and they're all rusty. So that probably comes from the processing and that it's experienced. Just, strange to find it in here. All right, let's set up the dry magnetic separator. All right, here we go with the dry magnetic separator. I'll turn on the light so we can see what's going on. And I want to get a brush. Well, I'll do that later. So this is the infamous roly-poly. What I'll do is I'll pour all the material through here. I'm using the medium cup because I'm kind of worried that I didn't get all those wires. And if I didn't get them, they're going to get jammed up in there. The good material that we'll further process, will go in here. The heavies, the black sands, the magnetite, and any other metallics will go in there. All right? I'm going to turn off the volume and I'll shut up because this thing makes quite a bit of noise. we did pull some black material, some metallic material out of it, but honestly, I know we didn't get it all because I can see it in here. So here's what I can tell you. This is, and I think he mentioned this, it is the finest black sands I've ever seen. We got a chunk of it, but we're going to have to process with it. We did get some. All right, I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to classify this any further down. I don't know whether you saw in the middle of all that, I was getting chunks of stuff, and I decided to classify it to a -20. I don't even know what this material is. It's not magnetic. I mean, honestly, it looks like a dirty gold flake. But I'm going to have to look at it closer before I make that. Anyway, all of this stuff was getting stuck in the dry magnetic separator funnel. And so I decided, kind of in the middle of things, to classify it down to -20 and then ran it through, and it ran through without any problems. So, I mean, we got some of it out, but I think I'm going to have to run it with what's left in there and maybe wash that stuff out, because if that's a gold flake, I want to know it. But I don't think I'm going to run it through anything other than the sluice, because I think that's going to give us the results we want if there is any gold in there. Plus, I'm going to end up with a lot of black material, a lot of black sands in it, and I'll just have to pan that out. Maybe that's what I'll put through the blue bowl or something like that. Okay? So next step is the sluice, and we get to try out our new vibrator. See what happens. Hey, guys, I don't know whether you noticed last night during the run with the dry magnetic separator that I speeded it up. I actually had to stop in the middle of the run and classify the material down to a -20 because I was getting all kinds of jams. And a lot of those jams was some flaky material. And after I finished the processing, I decided to take a look at the flaky material that I had captured in here. And I was surprised to find some metallics, and I think I know why. So let's take a look at this under the microscope. All right, guys. So these are the first of the flakes that I found, and I knew it was covered in dirt. I know they were covered in dirt, but I didn't know what. So I ran these over a piece of very fine emery paper, and I discovered that these items were copper. But here's the more exciting news. So I saw some other flakes that were finer and thinner and also covered in dirt. And I rubbed them against a piece of emery paper. Probably cost myself a little bit, but they're gold. They're gold flakes. And that crucible that you see them in is the inner diameter is 20 millimeters. I'm sorry, yeah, 20 millimeters. So that'll give you a sense of the size, but I wanted to put one on a ruler so you can get a sense. This was the largest of the pieces. And again, you can see it in both inches on the top and millimeters on the bottom. It's a pretty good sized flake. Now, I did weigh them, and actually I have the scale set up, so I'm going to take this and put this back in here. And I'm just going to put this on the scale. Let me zero it, turn it on. And you can see how big those crucibles are. We'll zero that out. And here's those gold flakes. So 1.220 grams, which is pretty good. And I still haven't run the materials through the sluice. I thought you guys might enjoy seeing that, because I certainly enjoyed seeing it. Okay, let's get on to running this material in the sluice. Okay, guys, here we go with the sluice run. Now, as you know, I've got water flowing from this end through a pump, this header box up here. I have the Dream Mat combo in the sluice. I also added this vibrator. Now, once I turn this on, it's going to get pretty loud. So I'll turn the audio off and just speed it up so you can see what's going on. This is not a lot of material, so it shouldn't take long to run. And this is the first time I've tested the vibrator with any kind of material at all. So I'm interested to see how it turns out. I got a bigger box for the wash plant because the small one was just getting, with the addition of the vibrators, getting a lot of splash. And then I had to add these two arms on it because once it starts vibrating, it starts moving around inside the box. So that keeps it from moving around too far and losing its leveling, okay? So here we go. So I'll leave the vibrator on just for a second so you guys can see what it sounds like, or hear what it sounds like. Water flow is set at 8.5 volts, which I've discovered is about right for this sluice. It looks like it's running just a little bit, so we'll turn it up. I'm going to turn this up to 9 volts, just so we make sure we have enough water going through it. I've already added jet dry to it, and I've brushed out all the bubbles, but I've noticed that when I start the vibrator, the bubbles go away. The bubbles in the Dream Mat go away. All right, so here goes the vibrator. I'm going to set this. You'll hear it go progressively high. I'm using, I don't know if I've got enough room. So this controller actually comes with the vibrator, and you use to control the speed. And I've discovered it gets loud to start with. And right there, we're at 2,700. You might be able to hear it. Now it'll go all the way up to, it'll go up to 7,000. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it about 3,000 and see if that works. Everything here, including the box, is vibrating. So let's see if it actually makes a difference in collecting additional gold. All right? All right. So I'm going to be quiet, and we're going to play some music for you. All right, guys, so I'm going to stop for just a minute because my water pump doesn't seem to be pushing water through, like there's a problem with it. So let me take care of that, and I'll be back in a sec. All right, so the hose clamp had come loose, and it was sucking in a bunch of air. But I wanted to show you, and let me turn the vibrator back on. Let's see if you can get this at the same time. So this is how it sounds vibrating. So everything here is vibrating. All right, back to the mellow music. All right. So there is definitely gold in there. There's some flakes here. There's a pretty good sized flake there. And I don't want to lose that one. But Silver Spike said he spends an hour panning out this material. And what's funny about it is there's very little black material in there. It seems like more blonde sands and a lot of mica. So it's really hard to separate. So I won't keep you here for all of that. Let me just wash it back a little bit. And you can see some of the flakes. There's one right there, a bigger one right there. So there is gold. Let me get finished cleaning this out. We'll put it under the microscope and then we'll weigh it. Okay? Okay, brothers and sisters, let's see what we got here. But I have a couple of comments to make before weigh this up. Number one, this stuff is really hard to pan. And it's really hard to pan because the black sands don't behave like normal black sands. They behave more like blonde sands. They're very light, very small and very light. So they don't end up showing up at the end of your panning. And I can understand why Silver Spike says that it takes him an hour to get through a medium-sized pan of the material. That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm going to have to cut that box down, my wash plant. It's too tall for me. I had to keep getting a stand to get up on top of it. Third thing is I was looking at the catchment, the tailings catchment, and they're very fine. So I may do a part 2 to this where I run the tailings through both the Blue Bowl and the Miller table. I just think that makes a lot of sense because I feel like we could have caught more gold. So the first thing I want to weigh is not only did we get gold, but we got the initial batch of copper that we pulled out with tweezers from the plus 20 mesh. But I don't know if you can see it here. Let me point it out. There's a whole bunch more copper here, these little pieces that ended up in the sluice. And again, no black sands, lots of blonde sands that seem to be heavier, but then this copper was in with the gold. And I literally had to take tweezers to get it out. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. This is the gold, that very fine gold that came out of the plus 20 mesh. And this is the one that I picked out at the tweezers. So that's at 1 point, that's a gram and a half of that material. Here's why I think that happened. So Silver Spike said he used a ball mill to crush this ore. And what happens is when you put those steel, it's like a rock tumbler, except probably bigger. And instead of a medium to help polish the rocks, you put in steel balls. And what happens is those steel balls crush the ore-bearing material, liberating the gold. And eventually the gold gets caught up in the material. So it starts getting hit with, as does the copper, all the metallics, gets hit with those steel balls. So it starts flattening out. And because that steel ball is kind of pressing this dirt into it, that's how it captures the dirt. And that's how it ends up so flat the way that it is. So that's what we pulled out of the plus 20 mesh screen. This came out of the sluice. I don't know how much more extra. And there's another piece of that flat gold in there. You probably saw it in the picture. We'll put it under the microscope again. So we got another, I don't know, 1/10 of a gram in there for a total of 1.615 grams. But like I said, I think I'm going to run the tailings through the Blue Bowl and maybe the Miller table and see if there's any additional material in there, because I feel like there might be some very fine gold in there. But 1.615 for a run that, went through the new sluice. The other thing I have to kind of test is that vibrator. That's why I want to test the tailings to see if the vibrator is catching gold or not catching gold. But I feel like it was a pretty good run. Okay, so let's take a look at this under the microscope. It's going to be hard to, you'll be able to see the smaller pieces as I move them around. All right, so you can see those big the large flakes that came out of the plus 20, and they're dirty. Vendetta Prospecting said that if I put them in hydrochloric acid, warm hydrochloric acid, I should be able to get that dirt off. But that's compared to the flake that you see right there on the end. That's the one that came out of the sluice. So you can see the difference in size. I don't think I can zoom this out any further. So, and it looks completely different. This flake, let me see if I can move it around here. So this small dirty flake here, that one right there, that came out of the sluice run. So it did capture some additional gold out of the sluice run that came right out of the gold-bearing ore. So the answer to your question, was it worth it taking on the panning challenge? I believe it was. I hope Silver Spike believes it does. It was, and there's gold in them there ore, I guess. So I'm relatively happy with the results. I'm still concerned about the effect of the vibrator, and that's why I want to run the tailings and put them through the blue bowl and see if I capture any additional. But I'll make that a complete different part 2 of this. Okay? Hope you enjoyed. Silver Spike, thank you for putting up the challenge, and I hope you're happy with the results. And as Vendetta Prospecting suggested, I'll put this through some hydrochloric acid, and we'll get that gold clean, and I'll take another picture and put it on our community tab. Okay? Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.